Cette première session de l'après-midi, nous avons, et avant de passer à une petite séance de questions quand même, parce que je suppose que vous devez avoir des questions, nous allons avoir Chris Bartlett qui nous vient de Philadelphie, qui est un vieux militant homosexuel et de santé.
Chris Bartlett Chris Bartlett is more than a man. He's a phenomenon.
So as we go through the Italian market, we're meeting lots of people, people who really remember all these great stories about Chris Bartlett, and some people who really just don't know who he is.
What was he, like a newscaster or something like that? What was he? I don't know. A ball player or what?
I actually don't know him.
Right now we're here at this big moving party here in South Philadelphia, and I'm sure Chris Bartlett probably volunteered to help today, didn't he?
No.
Hi Heidi, how are you?
Hi Maddie, I'm great. It's
Nice
great
to
see you.
Yeah. So this afternoon we're going around the city, we're talking to people all about Chris Bartlett.
One of my favorite people in the world. Chris Bartlett is there with that gentle, wonderful smile that just says I love you, and I'm a great person, and so are you, and we can make something really great happen.
Back on 9th Street now, we're moving through the crowds and going through the Italian market, and just as this incredible plethora of smells and sounds and vegetables and fruit and dead animals and the carcasses of once living things make this whole diorama of Philadelphia, so too are the rich stories of Chris Bartlett's life. You don't know anything about Chris Bartlett?
No. Obviously he wasn't doing too much if I don't know about him.
Well, there you go.
One of my favorite things about Chris Bartlett is he was knitting in meetings when I first met him way back in the day, before knitting was, the pastime activity that you could do in a group without being rude that it is now.
He's unpredictable, yes. And I think predictability with him would be like a weird thing.
Chris is one of those remarkable gay men that have almost no sense of style. It's really pretty amazing. I mean, he always looks great, and yet, left to his own devices, he'd be wearing plaids or some bad tweed. He just needs a little assist. But the good news is that even if his own sense of style doesn't help him pick out the right things, he at least has the presence of mind to pick out people who will help him pick out the right things.
One time, Gay Pride March, do you remember that? Where he was one of the officials on the front of the float, and he had such an outfit on and got up in front of the judges. Ethel Merman impersonation. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. And everybody flocked to him.
One time Ryan Goldner dressed him up as a cowgirl with braids and a little hat. Yeah, that was not his best look, I think.
Well, I do appreciate his fashion. One winter he was sporting this what was that? That polar fleece with the kind of teddy bear, like pink and blue teddy bear scarf with matching hat all winter long. That is good organizing.
I don't get to see Chris that often, and so it's hard to be sort of making new memories.
And his cats, how can you talk about him now without his cats? Even though when I met him he was catless, but Miss Margot and this new thing, they're part of his life and have mellowed him. And I think when he first got Margot, a number of us said, "You can't take care of yourself. How are you going to take care of a cat?"
Yes, I was sad about that cat, this whole question of freedom. And I was saying, I don't know that freedom means you let your cat go outside in the street where there are cars.
One of the ways we adults would have the children entertain themselves was to send them to the 3rd floor. This is when people might be visiting with children.
Damn, right? It would have been nice if they spent a good 3 or 4 hours up there putting together some Cecil B. DeMille production, Give you a little time to have a cocktail, a little nibbly, crunchy, little talk. Now, was Chris the director was he in control?
But if there was a girl here, then maybe she would do more. She would sort of take over.
Oh, so Chris liked to be a little bit more subservient to the female gender.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but knowing girls at that age, they might have tended to
Be a little bossier.
A little bossier, right.
But Chris took it.
Yes. Oh, yes, he did.
I love Chris Bartlett. So he's a brother. One of the jokes that we have is Chris says, but really, really, I am a light-skinned lesbian of color. And when he says that in front of people who don't really know him, they just like, what is up with this white boy?
We have this card group of African-American, mostly African-American gay men who participate in this card group every week. And Chris has come to the card group a couple of times, and he ends up having more conversation than I have with the people that I've been in this card group with for like 6 years. So I'm like, okay, let me get Chris out of this group real fast.
In front of thousands of people at a gay pride, event, and Ed Rendell, he gave a demonstration of how to put a condom on a dildo with his mouth. It was beautiful, and I think, if I recall, Julie Davidson and I talked him into doing that, and he did it.
He was absolutely oblivious to this questions of etiquette, which was the great thing about him. As well as so many people, I think, British people can be intimidated because it's Oxford. I think that he had the advantage in that sense that he'd come from outside and he wasn't bothered about those sort of questions, or perhaps not even aware of them.
You must have been very proud of him going to Oxford.
I was. I thought it was, great for him, and certainly proud of him.
Many of us at different points in our life, and some folks who haven't gotten to this point in their life where they just don't have the ability to share themselves or communicate with folks or understand the diversity of the person next to them. But Chris is not that person. He's an extraordinary human being.
I can remember doing many Ethel Merman impersonations with Chris. That's I think the strongest, he's everywhere doing Ethel Merman impersonation, and I think he's my role model as a Ethel Merman impersonator myself.
There was an occasion in which he went to a college dance, I believe it was, in what we called the long room where the college dances went on, and he took it into his head to get into fancy dress and arrive as Ethel Merman, which I think was a surprise to some members of the college.
I met Chris when I was working at Judy's back in the day, when Judy's still existed, and Chris was a customer, and we hit it off just by by me serving him his meals. He loves his meatloaf and his chicken, the cheddar crusted chicken.
We've now made our way up to Germantown this afternoon, thinking that maybe somewhere up here we might find anyone who might know something about the life and contributions of Chris Bartlett. Let's go knock on this door. Excuse me, hi. Do you know anything about Chris Bartlett, where he went to school?
Chris Bartlett, I think he went to Brown.
That's right. This is where the story about Chris Bartlett really begins.
And so I got a little flustered and nervous and whatever, finished and left that bathroom, but it kind of planted a seed.
And this is one of the things that I absolutely love about Lady Bartlett, because she's so fearless.
He does have a scarf fetish. He definitely has a scarf fetish. More importantly, it's a homegrown scarf fetish, so he wants to not just wear any scarf, but one that he's made with his own hands. That's really important.
He was a great one for, we were at New College, so the chant was typically New College, and he would wave his New College scarf around his head. It was quite a feat. But I don't remember any occasions when there were crashes. He was extraordinary. That's Chris, what an athlete he is, really. So dexterous.
We go to parties together all the time. So, on any given night, we may have 3 or 4 parties to go to, because he is the mayor of Philadelphia, of course. I mean, I know that John Street thinks he's the mayor, but Chris is really the mayor of Philadelphia. We start at perhaps Mark Siegel's annual holiday party, then we go to a few other parties, and then we end up at the Naked Go-Go Christmas Hells party.
Speaking of pottery, has Chris ever been a crafty kind of guy?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. He went to the Cheltenham Arts Center, and as a matter of fact, he you know, made various things over the years.
I was hoping to take lessons, knitting lessons, and we had talked about having a little like group knitting.
Did you ever call him about it?
Probably not, but I'm sure he was very enthusiastic at the thought of it, and that was definitely a way in which I felt also inspired by Chris. I love that though, boys that knit.
Chris, how do you feel about your gender in knitting?
I don't know. He's knitted the whole time I've known him. It's like part of who he is.
Oh my God, does Chris knit in meetings? He hasn't done it recently, but he does knit in meetings. He knits hats and scarves.
He's been into knitting for quite a while. He knit me a very nice sweater.
Do you love it?
Yes, I do.
Our creative boy. Now, did he make this for you for Valentine's Day, or was it?
Yes, I think he made it for me for Valentine's Day.
And did you keep treasures in it, or has it been in the basement ever since?
Hey, this is Gabby with a Chris Bartlett memory. Chris and I both liked opera, and we discovered that while we were cooking at Short Mountain. And from that point on, every gathering, Chris would bring a beautiful new opera, and we would spend the day listening to opera and cooking in the kitchen, much to some people's consternation, but certainly to my enjoyment and to Chris's. And it was such a wonderful kind of light, airy kind of thing. And then when we had a serious opera, there was a lot of tears and emotion. But the food was always good. And Chris was always wonderful. I love him, and I'm so happy to be his friend.
He could only have become Lady Bartlett by marrying Lord Bartlett, I suppose.
You would look like an angel. You would be so lovely.
Such a good boy. I don't buy it. I don't buy it for a minute.
There was a news story that was going around on Channel 10. It was during the sweeps period, so it was a very, very sensational news story. And it was about gay men who were preying on children at the King of Prussia Mall. Well, it was like a repeating news story. In other words, they were doing it one night and they were promoting the shit out of it because it was a sweeps week piece. And so all of a sudden the email goes out to everybody in Philadelphia that we've got to stop this. We need to go out to Channel 10 and we need to protest the fact that they're doing this sensational piece and blaming gay men for something that essentially nobody was complaining about at the King of Prussia Mall.
You know what he got me to do? To toilet paper NBC. He got me to with a group of activists, including Mark Siegel.
All of us are assembling, and Lady Bartlett does what Lady Bartlett does in these instances. She whips out her bullhorn and starts chanting and starts getting everybody sort of pumped up, and then all of a sudden, of course, it grabbed the attention of the people at Channel 10. And the reporter, one of the reporters, comes out the back door and with a camera trying to get this as an actual news story. And this is one of the things that I absolutely love about Lady Bartlett, because she's so fearless, that she took that bullhorn and was just screaming at this guy right to his face, wouldn't let him ask any of his questions.
And out there they have a cop for every activist, so we all got our own police car. When they arrested us, it was amazing.
Chris assures me everything is taken care of. And at the worst, we're going to do this, and the management's going to come out, we're going to talk, we're going to make an agreement, it's all going to be over. So we go up to the station. And he also says, of course, we need someone old who people can respect.
I can't remember what Chris was doing. I think he left. Not really. No, that's not true. You better cut that. No, he was there. He actually not only pulled me in, but he pulled one of the most amazing criminal lawyers in the city into helping defend us, Larry Krasner. With the, I don't know, there's probably 10 of us toilet paperers and helped us with our case. So that's again, good organizing. Amazing, really. I think we had to plead guilty, though.
Chris, you are lovely, lovelier than most who are 40. Chris, do you know what that's not what you're famous for, no. So I wish you the best luck with your next decade, and then many more decades to go before you die. A very pleasant death, which I hope involves lying still on a bed with men kissing you on your lips and your nipples in a very soft, loving way, which makes you know they'll miss you, and placing their hands on your heart and saying, I remember when you turned 40. Wasn't it grand? Chris Bartlett, happy birthday to you.